This is Prashant Jinde. Let's continue the next part of chapter 1. Previously, we have studied 4 different techniques or methods of polymerization. Let's continue the remaining polymerization methods. Start with emulsion polymerization technique. In this polymerization technique, if monomer is not soluble in the solvent, unlike solution polymerization, then monomer is dispersed into a medium like water, and that forms an emulsion. Meaning, monomer, when poured into water, this monomer is not soluble in the water, but still we try to stir it fast and try to mix them together. This monomer gets dispersed into the water, and an emulsion is created. In that emulsion, an initiator, emulsifier, and additives are added. These are the supporting chemicals that helps in starting the polymerization process. The polymerization reaction starts and monomers are joined together, polymeric chains are going to start form, and monomer emulsion is now converted into a polymeric emulsion. Once polymer is created, that can be further extruded and forms a fiber. The fibers, example, PAN, that is polyacrylonitrile, PVC, that is polyvinyl chloride, are produced using this method. Technically, the suspension polymerization is similar like emulsion polymerization. But here the produced polymer is suspended on the surface of a water. Meaning, when polymer is created from the monomer in the dispersion, then created polymer is suspended over the surface of water, similar like a cream on our milk. Once we understand how monomer is converted into a polymer through a various polymerization technique, then formed polymer, whether it is able to produce a fiber or not, that is our main question, right? So to produce a fiber from a polymer must have a certain characteristics without which we cannot say fiber is successfully produced. So let's see some of the characteristics of fiber forming polymer. But before going into details of characteristics, I will be clear one point over here. Not every polymer can produce fiber. For example, our plastic chairs are also produced from polymer. If you take same polymer to produce a fiber, it is not possible, because polymer used to prepare chairs has a different characteristics compared to fiber forming polymer. So let's understand these characteristics. First characteristics is high molecular weight or long chain molecules. Polymer must have high molecular mass. High mass can be obtained by making the chain long enough. High degree of polymerization can create a longer polymeric chain. So length of a molecular chain should be in order of 1000 angstrom. So as shown in this figure, chain should be as large as possible. It should not be short. The second characteristics of a polymer is flexibility. That is flexible linear molecular chain, not branched. As here in this figure, you can see this polymer is having a branched structure. Branched polymer is not suitable for fiber formation. So to form a fiber, polymer must have a linear structure, and linear structure must be flexible enough. Polymer must be a linear, straight, not branched. As I told you, it is shown in this figure. with a high degree of symmetry. So let's understand the third characteristics. Polymers should have a high degree of cohesion. A polymer should have high degree of intermolecular cohesion power. This indicates that the molecular chain have a sufficient number of sites for attraction. So as shown in this figure, the red lines shows that these molecular chains, different molecular chains are interconnected with each other, and that gives you a cohesive power. Higher cohesive power, higher will be the strength, and that is we need in our fiber property. So let's understand the fourth important characteristics of fiber forming polymer. That is, polymer must have crystalline as well as amorphous region into it. Next one is molecular chain have a good orientation. High degree of molecular orientation of molecules in the polymer is one of the requirement for producing a good tensile strength fiber. And last but not the least is it should withstand a certain treatment like chemical and mechanical. Man-made fibers like polyester, nylon, polypropylene, polyethylene, polyacrylonitrile, polyurethane, and many more are generally called as synthetic fibers. Most of the synthetic fibers are manufactured by the monomer. These monomers are converted into a polymer through a polymerization reaction and polymerization method that we already earlier learned these things. In our example, if we apply a heat along with a certain additives, then the liquid monomer earlier, which was having a lower viscosity, now converted into a polymer with higher viscosity. Now in this figure you can see there is a beaker and a liquid into it. This liquid is a very thick liquid, like its consistency is similar to a honey or more than that. Its viscosity is also higher, right? Why? Because this liquid is having a polymeric chains into it. So now this liquid, we can call this liquid as a polymer. This thick liquid is known as a polymer. Further, polymer, it gets converted into a fiber through a process called as spinning. Here, spinning means the process to produce a fibers from polymer, not your regular spinning terminology where fibers are converted into yarn, but rather spinning is nothing but the process to produce a fibers from the polymer. Now how these thick liquid, we called it as a polymer, converted into a fiber? That is the main question. Polymer is further heated and passed through the die, which is having small holes into it. Polymer, when passed through these holes and they take actually shape like a thick strand or filament as shown in this figure. This process is generally continuous and known as extrusion process. Meaning fibers are extruded from the polymeric solution. These hot filaments then cooled off and cuts into the chips, that is small granules, and these granules further heated, melted, extruded, and filaments are created. Hi, this is a different subtopic, you can say, that is classification of fiber. We need to understand this classification because it helps in understanding the further topics. So let's understand the classification of fiber. Textile fibers are mainly divided into two classes, that is natural fiber and second one is man-made fiber. This classification is based on source from which fibers are extracted or created. Natural fibers means these fibers are created by the nature, whereas man-made fibers means they are created by the mankind. These man-made fibers are sometimes called as synthetic fibers, because they become synthesized in the factories. Natural fibers further divided into three subclasses: animal, vegetable, and mineral. These subclasses are created based on the origin of a fiber from different kingdoms like plant kingdom, animal kingdom, etc. Animal fibers are further subdivided into two types, that is hair fiber and secreted fiber. Animal fibers, those fibers are extracted from the animal hairs like sheep hair, camel hair, yak hair, etc. Whereas secreted fibers like silk is extruded from the silkworm. So silk fiber is classified as a secreted fiber, whereas sheep hairs like wool is classified as a hair fibers. Both comes under the animal fiber. Vegetable fibers further classified as a source of extraction from different part of a plant. There are various parts of the plant available, that is seed, then bast, fruit, leaf. These are the various parts of the plant. If fiber are extracted from the leaf, then it is called as leaf fiber. If fibers are extracted from the seed, these fibers are referred as a seed fibers. Likewise, example of a seed fiber is cotton fiber. Cotton fiber is actually attached to a seed, and we actually extracted these cotton fibers from the seed, and that's why the cotton fiber is classified as a seed fiber. Similar like cotton, there is another plant or fiber that is called as a kapok. Kapok is another fiber which is looking like similar like a cotton, and it is also attached to a seed, and we extract this kapok fiber from the seeds, and that's why this kapok is also classified as a seed fiber. Next classification is fruit. Fruit fibers are example of a fruit fiber, we can take it as a coconut. Coconut is a fruit, and fiber extracted from the fruit is called as coir fiber. Another part of a plant is bast. The fiber extracted from the bast part is referred as a bast filament or fibers rather. So example of a bast fibers are jute fiber, hemp fiber, linen fiber. Yes, linen are those fibers, those are extracted from the bast part of a plant. Last but not the least is nothing but leaf fiber. Leaf fiber means fibers are extracted from the leaf part of a plant and categorized as leaf fiber. Example of leaf fiber is nothing but our pineapple and sisal. Those are the fibers, those are extracted from the leaf. Lastly, in the natural fiber category, that is mineral fibers. These mineral fibers are extracted from asphalt rocks. Example of mineral fibers are asbestos fiber. Asbestos fiber is generally utilized to insulate the steam pipeline. Their insulation power is very good. Man-made fibers are further classified into a three category, that is regenerated fiber, synthetic fiber, and inorganic fiber. As we all know, this man-made fiber means man create these fibers, and these sometimes also referred as the synthetic fibers. These fibers are classified based on whether its source is available in the nature or entirely based on crude oil or petrochemicals. The petrochemical source, when we use it and prepare the fiber out of it, then such a fiber is known as a synthetic fiber. And examples of synthetic fibers are polyester, nylon, polyethylene, polypropylene, polyvinyl, polyurethane, etc. Because they use certain chemicals, those are liberated during a purification of a crude oil or manufacturing of a petrochemicals. Whereas the regenerated fibers, that is, they are going to use a natural resources like a cellulose, like a protein. These cellulose and proteins are the natural resources. When we use those natural resources and modified with the help of a certain chemicals, a new version of a fiber, a filament is created, and that is called as regenerated fibers. These regenerated fibers are further classified based on whether natural source is cellulosic or proteinous. So pure cellulose, when converted into the fiber, then these fibers, example of these fibers are viscose fibers. Whereas um, the modification in the cellulose takes place with a certain chemicals, and chemical structure of a fiber is altered, and a new kind of breed of fiber is created, that is called as modified cellulose fiber. Example of modified cellulose fibers are tensile. Let's talk about the protein fiber. Protein fiber is another category under the regenerated fiber. If a protein, example, milk is one of the source of a protein, right? When it is modified by the chemical and fibers are extracted, named as casein. So such a fiber which is extracted from the milk is generally referred as a casein fiber. Whereas peanuts are also good examples of a protein. So if peanut protein is modified with the chemicals and then fibers are extracted, those fibers are called as peanut fiber. Similarly, zein fiber, those are extracted from a corn protein. Another category of synthetic fiber, which is the last one, is nothing but inorganic fibers. Example of those inorganic fibers are glass fiber and metal fibers.